My name is Don Topliff, PhD. I am the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs here at Angelo State University. So my journey to Angelo State is fairly extensive. I started out as an assistant professor at Oklahoma State University in 1983. I went up through the ranks of assistant to associate to full professor at OSU and was in charge of the equine program there for 15 years. I had the opportunity to move into administration at West Texas A&M University in 1998. And so I went there as the head of the Division of Agriculture at West Texas A&M University. We had a fairly extensive research program in environmental agriculture. And what that was looking at the impact of agriculture on the environment and to how to reduce that impact as much as we possibly could. While I was there, we also worked with Underwriters Laboratories, and we actually built the first wind turbine test system in the state of Texas. West Texas A&M University is obviously on the high plains where they have Class 4 winds, and that are winds. Class 4 are winds that are fairly high and fairly sustainable, which made for a great place to test wind turbines. So I left there in 2015 as I got a call from the then president here at Angelo State University, who actually was one of my colleagues in graduate school at Texas A&M University. So Dr. Brian May called me and wanted to know if I was interested in coming to Angelo State University as the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost. And at the time, I really wasn't sure that that's what I wanted to do. And so we talked back and forth for maybe the better part of a month, and he finally convinced me to come down here and take a look and to interview for that position. So I came here in 2015. I've been here ever since as the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. So a lot of people have asked me, why? Because actually 9 years now, and almost 10, is a very long time for a provost to stay in one place. And there have been a number of factors to that. Number one, I would say when COVID hit, all bets were off on everything, and that was a year and a half of really difficult time across the country, but in particular here at Angelo State University. We actually went from what I would say was a majority face-to-face institution to 100% online in a week and a half. As I think back at how we did that, it's really pretty amazing that we did. Now, was it perfect? No, absolutely not. There are a lot of things that, if we had known then what we know now, we probably would have done some things a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, we did not disrupt the education of our students. And in fact, in 2020, which is when COVID hit, we actually had a graduation ceremony in the fall of 2020. Now, it was very different. It was basically an online graduation thing. We live streamed it, and we were social distancing, and it was very different than what we do in a normal graduation. But our students were able to walk across the stage and get a diploma and to have that experience. So even though their families couldn't be there, at least they had that experience. So that was one of the reasons that caused me to stay. Shortly thereafter, Dr. May left, and President Hawkins came on board. And actually, he and I had discussions prior to his even applying for president. He actually came to my office one day and said that, he thought we needed to get into the cybersecurity business, so we should write a grant to NSA on cybersecurity. And it just so happened that the timing of that was everybody was pretty well gone from campus. And so myself and Katie Plum, our sponsored projects director, wrote that grant. I'm not a cybersecurity expert at all. And so what I knew about cybersecurity at that point was pretty minimal. We wrote the grant, and in a very short amount of time, we received a grant to start a cybersecurity program here at Angelo State University. So then, not too long after that, we actually had an opportunity to start the aviation program, which I'm a pilot. I got my pilot's license when I was 19 years old. I have about 450 hours. I'm not currently active flying for a number of reasons, not the least of which is I don't have time. But beyond that, there's some other things too. And so anyway, when we started that aviation program, I was really deeply involved in getting all that going and working with Skyline Aviation and actually some other potential partners that we would thought about partnering with. So when we took the aviation program to the Board of Regents, I told them that we would have 65 students in the program by the end of the 5th year, which is what we had to submit to the coordinating board. Turns out I had under-promised and over-delivered. Today we have 194 students in the program. 170 of those are actually flying. Another 24 are working on an aviation administration track. So super highly successful program, and to the point where we've been able to raise a significant amount of money to build a facility for a teaching facility at Mathis Field at the San Angelo Regional Airport. I guess every time that I thought about doing something else, something came along that kept my interest here. And I guess I'm at a point in my career now where I've been in higher education now 43 years. So it's probably time to think about doing something else with my family. So don't know when that's going to be. It's not imminent. It's not like I'm ready to get out of here in the coming year. But as long as I can be helpful and as long as I can provide value to Angelo State University, I'm happy to stay here and do what I'm doing. So I get this question all the time. What is a provost? What does even the term provost means? So provost is actually derived from a French word, which means lieutenant, which is essentially second in command. And that's what, in most academic settings, the provost is the number 2 administrator at an institution. Now, I joke with people all the time. I say, as a provost, my job really is head janitor, in that I get to clean up all the messes that nobody else wants to deal with. And there's some truth to that, but really that's probably an overstatement. But the provost is the chief academic officer, so I'm in charge of everything that relates to the academic enterprise of the institution, which includes hiring of faculty, overseeing of the curriculum, and anything that has to do with our research effort here among faculty also falls to me. So that's what a provost does. Every day is different. There's no 2 days that are alike. People ask me about, well, what does your schedule look like for the coming week or coming month? So I have no clue. I'm not in charge of my schedule. I have so many people that put things on my calendar. I never know really till I get here in the morning what today is going to look like. Well, that's a tough question. What am I most proud of? I don't know that I could point to one thing in particular, but I will say probably the thing that stands out the most is how we have been able to increase the enrollment in this institution. When I came here, we were at about 6,500, somewhere in there. This fall, we're at 11,547, if you want an exact number. So, I'm very proud that we've been able to do that. And we've done that through a number of things. One is retaining students that came here to begin with. When I came here in 2015, our first and second year retention rate was somewhere around 62%. We've been as high as 73%. And so that means that students that come here are staying, they're getting a degree. And I have a saying around that. I say that we're in the business of changing family trees. And what I mean by that is the students that we get here, a lot of them are first generation. They're the first in their family to come to college. A lot of them come from very humble surroundings, from low socioeconomic situations. And as we graduate them and send them back to their communities and to their families, we are in fact changing their family tree. They are going to be able to do things that, had they not come to Angelo State University, they would never be able to do. So I'd say if I had to point to one thing, that's what I'm most proud of. So people that come to my office, they see the saddle. That saddle actually belonged originally to a fellow that worked for my father there on our family farm and ranch in western Kansas. And when he decided to leave, he had actually owed my dad some money. And so my dad asked me if I wanted that saddle, and I said, absolutely. Now, part of what a lot of people don't know about me is that I spent a good amount of time as a youth and really up into my middle 20s as a rodeo cowboy. So I started rodeoing when I was about 8, and then I finally got enough of it when I was about 25. So I actually was a professional rodeo cowboy for a couple of years there, 1976 to 1978, somewhere in there. Had a very good run as a professional cowboy, but I think the last rodeo I went to, I looked back and I had $500 in the bank and 96,000 miles on my pickup, and I thought there's got to be a better way. Now, fortunate for me, as my college days, as going to a community college and then on to Kansas State, I had some mentors that really helped me understand a path beyond rodeo. And so the last rodeo that I went to was August the 15th of 1978. August the 16th, I packed up and moved to College Station, Texas, where I'd gotten into graduate school. And I was there for 5 years, got my master's and doctorate at Texas A&M. And that was the beginning of my career in academia. So I'm still a cowboy. I still love rodeo. I just don't want to go up and down that road anymore. But my rodeo days are over, and as I said, I really don't have a desire to get back out on that road at all. But I've always been a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. I guess that's probably what rodeo was a little bit about, was the adrenaline rush of all of it. I've done some other things. I raced model airplanes for a while, and that was kind of a kick in the pants. But my latest deal is I've gotten into drag boat racing. I actually got into it because Doug Fox, our CIO, had been hounding me to go with him and race. And so I went and crewed for him for one race, and it just looked like a lot of fun. And so the following season, I started actually running my bass boat for a while. And it's fairly fast, but it really was very inconsistent, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I have this thing that I'm a good sport. I'm just a bad loser. I hate losing, and I just didn't feel like I could win with that. So I found a boat down by Corpus Christi, Texas. I went down there and actually bought a whole guy's racing operation, and that was in 2022, I guess. That was the first year that I ran that boat. So I went from running about 70 mile an hour in my bass boat to about 135 mile an hour in this boat. So it's definitely got the adrenaline back. I was fortunate in 23 to win the High Points Championship of the Southern Drag Boat Association with that boat. I won the runner-up points championship this year. Number 2. I don't like being number 2. Next year I'm going to try to get back to number 1. But it really has been a lot of fun, and something that I've met a lot of people, a whole new set of friends, and a whole new community that really is almost a second family. So about 2 years ago, the president and I began to talk about starting a rodeo team here at Angelo State University. And of course, his background didn't help him to understand exactly what that was, which is fine. But so he knew that I had rodeoed and wanted to know if that was something that we should do. And I said, well, we should explore it. I said, the biggest problem we have is that we don't have a facility. So along the way, we figured out that the city of San Angelo was looking to do something with what was back then called the Red Barn. And the Red Barn was a facility there at the fairgrounds that had been, I think, donated to the city. I don't know the exact history of it. And it had fallen kind of into disrepair. It was still useful, though. And so we started talking to the city about leasing that facility to ASU. We got the city council involved, and they agreed. And so we have a long-term lease on that facility for, as I recall, it's $1 a year. I don't remember, but it took it off the city's hands and got it into our hands. We've spent a tremendous amount of money already on fixing it up. And then along the way, of course, I'm still connected to rodeo in many, many ways. I know a lot of people in rodeo still, and so I was able to help us hire a rodeo coach, and Casey, our rodeo coach, he was actually the assistant coach at Tarleton. The coach at Tarleton was actually the coach at WT when I was there. And so, I mean, life is full of these threads that go through, and this just happened to be one that I was able to pull on that thread a little bit and help get the rodeo program started here. So we've got, I think, 34 students in the rodeo program this fall. May be wrong about that number, but it's already growing. I know that we already have one of our rodeo contestants is qualified for the next nationals already. We've got several more that are right there on the cusp of getting qualified. So Casey's done an outstanding job with that program so far, and we've had great community support. We actually have an anonymous donor that gave us $1 million challenge grant for upgrades to the facility, and our development folks have been working feverishly to get that matched. We're well on our way to getting that done. And so, yeah, I guess the question is, did I have something to do with it? Yes, but fortunately, I'm not in charge of it at the moment. Yeah, there's 2 or 3 things that we're working on that I'm really excited about. One is working on the problem of produced water here in the Permian Basin region. Senator Perry's got a big initiative going to that, and we are trying to get started working on that. And what produced water is, for those that don't know what that means, is for every barrel of oil that's pumped here, we get 50 barrels of salt water that comes up with it. What we've been doing with that salt water to this point is re-injecting it back into the earth, and the earth's had enough of it. It doesn't want it anymore. It's salt water starting to come back up in places in West Texas. There are those that say that some of the tremors, the tectonic tremors that we've had here in this region, are caused by injection of salt water. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I know that we can't continue to inject it back into the ground. First of all, water is really, really critical. I mean, we live on the edge of the desert right here. And so water is the lifeblood of this part of Texas. And so it doesn't make any sense to take water that, we can't use it in the form that it's in, but can we clean it up and find another use for it? And that's what the Produced Water Consortium is all about. It takes power to do that. We're actually going to Abilene here to look at their molten salt reactor project, which now has Nuclear Regulatory Commission approval to build that. So we want to understand more about that and how that might play into our ability to take water and clean it up. It takes energy to do that. Obviously, the grid here in Texas, as we found out during Snowmageddon, is not as safe and sound as we need it to be. We have a power problem here in Texas, and so That's going to be part of that. We also are looking to get an AI Center of Excellence, Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence, started here on our campus. And so those two projects, along with finishing up what we're doing in aviation and some of that, are exciting to me. They're things that I look forward to working on and hopefully being able to bring those to Angelo State University. So it takes everybody. I don't do it alone. I got great people to work with here. And as I said earlier, as long as I enjoy what I'm doing, why quit? Here's what I would say to people. Angelo State, in many ways, is a hidden gem. We're doing all we can to get it unhidden, but we're not on an interstate. We're not in a big metropolis. And so what I'd like people to know is that just because we're geographically sort of isolated, that doesn't mean that you can't get a great education and make a great career by coming here. And we're doing fairly well in recruiting students, but we always want more.